My name is Carole D'Elia. I'm the Executive Director of the Little Hoover Commission. Our chairman, Pedro Nava, unfortunately had an urgent situation arrive, and he's not going to be able to be here, so I'm going to fill in for the opening, which I'll keep very brief because I know everybody is here to listen to the members that we've brought for our showcase. So just going to give a very brief overview of the Little Hoover Commission. This April, we will be celebrating our 54th year, so we've been around since 1962. We are a bipartisan oversight board. We have 13 members. We have 4 legislative members. Our current members include Senators Roth and Cannella, and Assembly Member Ridley Thomas, and Assembly Member Mays. So in saying that, you can see we're bipartisan. Our other 9 members are appointed by the governor and the legislative leadership, and no more than 5 of them can be from the same political party. They come from disparate backgrounds, different ideologies, but they all want government to work efficiently. As many of you might know, many of you have participated in our process. We have public hearings. We sometimes have advisory committee meetings. And at the end, our commissioners determine what they might want to recommend, and those recommendations go to the governor and to the legislature. We do different activities in hopes that those will get implemented. We will assist people who have legislation. We will work with the administration. And sometimes things are even done through the Budget Act, not surprisingly. So that's how our process works. We're often asked, as I've already been asked today, well, how does the commission select topics? So we're an independent body. We have, as I said, 13 commissioners. I report to them, and because they're staggered and appointed by the legislature and the governor, we have the ability to look at anything within the executive branch. They serve as volunteers, so they want to use their time in topics that are of interest to them, although we also get requests sometimes from the legislature, from stakeholders, and it just, we want to have something that's got statewide impact. So the study that we're here to talk about today was actually a commissioner-generated idea. In fact, soon you will be hearing from Commissioner David Beier. He was appointed by Governor Brown in June of 2014 and has a lot of varied experience, but part of his experience was as a policy advisor to Vice President Gore during the Clinton administration, and he has connections with the federal government, and suggested that, knowing some of the things that were going on in federal government, questioned how can we improve Californians' interactions with their state government? What is the state doing to make the experience better? And part of this was born out of the frustration that people have with not trusting government. There were surveys out there that we highlighted in our study that people just don't trust government to do the right thing. They feel like they're wasting taxpayer dollars. And when you maybe have to interact with government, for example, you've recently lost your job and now you have to interact with the Unemployment Development Department, and you're put on hold for 45 minutes, you start to think, you know, if they're this bad at this is my one interaction, how bad are they at everything else? Why does it have to be so hard? The other thought was, as our private lives have improved, as you know, we're used to Amazon Prime delivering things, people knowing I had an interaction with my auto insurer today, and they by my phone number, they're, hello, Miss D'Elia, which car is it and what's its problem this time? You know, why is it when I'm dealing with the state, does it have to be so hard? We also were focused on those most vulnerable Californians, those who don't have time. They're working multiple jobs, they can't take time off to go wait in line, or they can't be on hold for hours on end. And so keeping that in mind with how do we make government easier, more efficient, and just in general, how do we improve the user experience? So this study, we held 3 hearings. We had 1 site visit, generously hosted by Code for America in San Francisco, or we have 1 advisory committee hosted by Code for America in San Francisco, and our recommendations came out in the fall. And since that time, our staff have been talking with various members in the administration, people like you, others. We've been reaching out to consultants of legislative members who are on various caucuses and committees that we thought might have an interest. And so today, the goal was to share what the commission learned, but more importantly, to share the stories of the people that we got to know so that you will get to know them and see what we can do. And then, as I said, we've built in time at the end for us to be able to network with these experts. So we have tables set up so you can go around if there's somebody in particular who has said something that you're interested. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Beier. He is going to talk about our findings and our recommendations, and he will then introduce Hillary Hartley, who will be our first speaker.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
It's great to be here. I expect that success at the end of the day is, does everyone here learn something they didn't know before, or are they willing to take an action that they wouldn't have thought of or wouldn't have planned to do otherwise? I'm not going to repeat what's in the report. You're all very smart people and you can read the report, but let me give you the sort of framework. As Carol said, in our first hearing, our first witness talked about trust in government. And as she said, I used to work for Vice President Gore, and in the Clinton administration, there was a thing called reinventing government. It was a well-intentioned and mostly successful effort to rethink about federal agencies, cut out regulations, things like that. But I think if you fast forward over the last 20 plus years, the thing that this report brings out, and the things that I think you'll hear from the other participants today, is different. It's not organizational change in the structural sense. It is more a framework or a state of mind about making government customer-centric, or centering on the experience of the citizen dealing with the government. And the hope is that by recognizing and respecting the time and the activity levels of individual citizens and giving them something closer to the consumer experience that they have in the rest of their lives, that they'll feel better about government, that bond between the governed and the government is stronger, and that people think more openly about engaging in government service, which is a key component. Respecting civil servants is part of what we tried to do in our study. So, what does customer-centric government mean? It means experiment. And one of the maybe most important recommendations that'll seem very subtle, but I think we heard it pretty consistently, is give state agencies and state leaders an opportunity to experiment and fail. There is not, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough, you're not being imaginative enough. So part of what we're encouraging is small teams to try things. If they work, expand them. To do experiments, to do pilot programs. This is not the creation of a giant new government bureaucracy. Rather, it's getting each agency on its own bottom, consistent with their own mission, to think about how can they deliver services in a way that is respectful of and responsive to the individual citizens that they're serving in their particular mission. So that's a pretty big idea. The second big idea is using data the government otherwise collects to enhance the consumer experience and to enhance the delivery of services. Good examples of government data producing good things. If I'd only used my Google Maps to get here, I would have been here on time. The Google Maps came from federally funded satellite overviews, matched with investment from the private sector, from Google and others. The point is, there is a massive amount of assets that have been created by taxpayer-funded activities. Applying those, the Department of Health in California has done some very good things. More to be done. I know they're excited about doing more. Other agencies are beginning to do that. It shouldn't be hard to get a birth certificate or a death certificate or a whole bunch of other things. The data exists. The smart, mostly young coders can figure out how to do it. And many of you here know how to do that kind of stuff. I don't have a clue. The point of our study, however, is to try and call attention to legislators, their staff, their consultants, and members of the executive branch to take measurable action, hold people accountable for improved service. If it works, expand it, try it again, experiment, try it again. So with that, I will close it out and introduce Hillary. She's nodding over there. I think I did okay.